I am Melissa Thompson. The day I turned 19, my mother thrust a garbage bag into my hands alongside a single train ticket heading in one direction only. Her words cut through me. You no longer belong to this family. 11 years passed before they pronounced me deceased. When I appeared at my own memorial service, the effect was devastating. The expressions on their faces held a value beyond measure. My greeting was deliberate. Did you miss me? Most individuals fantasize about the eulogies their loved ones might deliver at their funerals. My reality proved stranger. I observed my own mother reciting my death notice while life pulsed through my veins. They organized a ceremony, systematically removed me from photographs and collective memory, liquidated my possessions, appropriated what should have been mine, and reconstructed the narrative as though my existence had been fictional. Their assumption was that my departure would be permanent. They miscalculated. The catalyst arrived through a notification in my modest apartment, located at a considerable distance from Portland, Oregon. An electronic message from a friend I hadn't spoken to in years materialized on my screen, containing an attachment that sent ice through my core. There sat my photograph rendered in monochrome, accompanied by text that read, "In memory of Melissa Thompson, cherished daughter and sister, departed too soon." Below it, expressions of grief accumulated, comments lamenting my absence, describing my tragic exit, all published by the people who shared my blood. My pulse accelerated as comprehension dawned. They had interred me without a fragment of truth. Their actions transcended mere disownment. They had terminated my existence on official records. The recorded footage from the service displayed them assembled together, expressions appropriately somber, mourning a fabrication. Within me, grief intertwined with rage rose up, piercing and relentless. From nothing, I had constructed a new existence, convinced I had progressed beyond the past. But this development, this deliberate erasure, dragged me backward into their orbit. Since they desired my death, I would manifest as the disruption they never anticipated. If this narrative resonates with you, perhaps you've experienced erasure yourself or battled against profound betrayal. Share your reflections in a comment below. From which corner of the world are you watching? Press subscribe and activate notifications to receive more unfiltered, memorable stories of this nature. The next installment shouldn't be missed. The notification arrived on an unremarkable Tuesday as darkness approached. Inside my compact apartment, I was organizing correspondence, engaged in the type of mundane activity that had stabilized my days following years of rebuilding from scratch. The alert originated from email, a platform I rarely monitored anymore. However, the name of the sender seized my focus. Vanessa Bennett, someone I'd befriended during high school back in Portland. More than 10 years had elapsed since our late evening conversations about aspirations and departure. Her subject heading was economical. Is this you urgent? Upon opening it, I anticipated some case of mistaken identity or fraudulent communication. Instead, her message struck like frigid water. Hey Melissa, discovered this on Facebook. Believed you were gone. Everyone claimed so. Attached was a captured image of a social media post. My photograph from when I was 16, presented in grayscale with prominent lettering beneath it. In loving memory of Melissa Thompson, our treasured daughter and sister, 1997 to 2017. The listed death date corresponded to 3 years following my expulsion. My heartbeat intensified as I examined the content further. Relatives had contributed comments. Such a tragedy gone too young. We pray for her peace every day. The post originated from Rebecca Thompson, my sister. The space around me tilted slightly. I steadied myself against the counter, fixated on the display. This exceeded the bounds of any practical joke. The deliberateness felt palpable, undeniable. Vanessa's message elaborated. Your family conducted a service. I abstained from attending, but reports indicated substantial attendance. They attributed it to a car accident, according to her account. I refreshed the display, seeking some technical error, but the post persisted there, taunting my continued existence. They had transformed my absence into a burial plot. Before I could stabilize my racing thoughts, I selected the link. She had included video documentation from the memorial. The file took time to load, but eventually the recording consumed my screen. The venue was Portland's community center. Columns of seating occupied by neighbors and extended family members I'd recognized throughout childhood. Gentle instrumental music provided ambience as the camera traversed faces adorned in dark attire. Then focus shifted to her, Karen Thompson, my mother. She occupied the podium with composure and control, her vocal delivery unwavering. We remember Melissa, a lost soul who strayed from the path. She's at rest now, and we find solace in that. I halted the playback, my hands trembling visibly. They had conducted no search, harbored no curiosity about my whereabouts. Instead, they had authored my conclusion. The footage progressed, revealing the audience offering agreement through subtle gestures, not a single person challenging the account. Rebecca occupied a front position, her expression vacant, while Gregory, my father, displayed restless discomfort in the adjacent seat. Andrew, my brother, directed his gaze floorward. A visual presentation followed, snapshots from my childhood captured at Portland parks and during family occasions, terminating abruptly at my adolescent years. The recording concluded, depositing silence throughout my apartment. I reviewed segments repeatedly, cataloging every particular element, the manufactured tears, the rehearsed prayers. A sensation formed within my chest, constricting and unyielding. This surpassed rejection. They had converted me into a phantom. Seizing my phone, I composed a response to Vanessa. "What is this?"
I'm alive.
"Who initiated the rumor?" Her answer materialized rapidly. "Your mom told everyone. Said you vanished after fight, then died in a crash." The service was at the community hall. Full house. I absorbed her words repeatedly, the atmosphere growing increasingly oppressive. They had persuaded the entire town, including former friends like her. Nobody had expressed skepticism or investigated more thoroughly. Vanessa appended, "I thought it was true until I saw your profile pop up randomly. Glad you're okay, but this is messed up." Her verification finalized it. They had eliminated me publicly before everyone who had recognized me in Portland. As evening dissolved, I traversed the room, assembling the puzzle. The post, the video documentation, the deceptions, all indicated something methodically orchestrated. I had endured independently, subsisting through temporary employment until achieving stability. But this revelation, this discovery fractured that foundation. They had operated under the assumption I would disappear without protest. That assumption was incorrect. The resolution crystallized within me, firm and necessary. I required additional information to comprehend the full extent of their scheme. For the present moment, though, astonishment immobilized me, staring into the darkness as I gazed at the illuminated screen. Recollections surged forth. The cursor pulsed tauntingly, transporting me to that consequential birthday in Portland. I had nudged the door inward quietly, the characteristic groan of the hinges reverberating through the entrance hall. The residence carried the aroma of dinner's conclusion, roast meat and potatoes, a customary selection in our middle-class existence. But tension permeated the air, thick with unvoiced condemnation. Karen Thompson, my mother, commanded the environment from her position on the sofa, her features seemingly carved from granite. She stood suddenly, seizing the garbage bag she had assembled, contents shifting within like abandoned artifacts of my former life. The one-directional train ticket to Seattle materialized next, thrust into my grasp like a judicial sentence. "Rebellion has no place here," Karen declared, her tone subdued yet uncompromising. "We won't let your rebellion drag us down." My eyes swept the room as desperation mounted. Gregory Thompson, my father, moved restlessly near the bookshelf, his fingertips grazing book spines without intention, his vision directed downward. Rebecca, my sister, balanced on the armrest, her bearing seemingly casual, yet her eyes contained sharp awareness tinged with competitive satisfaction, as though my elimination validated her status as the obedient child. Andrew, my brother, positioned himself against the wall, his arms crossed in a manner that broadcast deliberate neutrality. His silence represented neutral territory, I could never access. The bag hung limply in my hold, its inexpensive fabric rustling against my fingers. After everything, this is how it ends? I murmured, the inquiry suspended unanswered in the air. Karen tightened her crossed arms further. We gave you chances. Take your things and go. Gregory's exhalation disrupted the stillness, a gentle sound betraying internal conflict, yet his feet remained planted, extending no intervention. Rebecca angled her head, her contentment apparent in how she prevented direct visual engagement, presumably calculating advantages my removal would provide. Andrew shifted his weight, his emotional distance functioning as protective armor that rendered me completely alone. Advancing out into the sharp Portland evening air, the suburban avenue felt unfamiliar beneath the porch illumination. I lowered myself to the curb's edge, the ticket's paper borders pressing into my skin, scrutinizing the windows for any indication of reverse decision. The curtains maintained their stillness. That banishment shaped my subsequent 10 years. Consciousness returned to the present moment. I closed the browser tab and navigated towards social media platforms, driven by compulsion to measure their treachery precisely. Searching for my profile produced emptiness, eliminated tags, severed connections. Transitioning to Rebecca's account unveiled a carefully curated story, spontaneous photographs from neighborhood gatherings, her recent recognition from the community center, references to family achievements that systematically excluded my participation. A concealed post from 9 years previous captured my focus. The photograph documented my childhood bedroom, utterly transformed, bed structure removed, walls given fresh paint in neutral tones. The window treatments I had personally installed, now completely absent. Embracing change by letting go of the old, Rebecca had inscribed, accompanied by heart symbols and encouraging responses from relatives. It represented their systematic elimination, converting my personal sanctuary into an unmarked foundation for her occupation. Karen's timeline reflected the identical narrative, imagery of bake sales and seasonal decorations in Portland public spaces, all broadcasting cohesion through captions highlighting resilience and faith, deliberately omitting my contribution. This digital purification sparked more intensive investigation into archived messages. Discovering Gregory's unsent drafts resembled excavating concealed correspondence. The earliest read, "Melissa, the argument that night was wrong. I let it happen." A subsequent one stated, "Birthdays come and go without you. I think of calling but hold back." Yet another confessed, "Your mother's vision for the family doesn't include conflicts like yours." These arrested admissions revealed his internal battle, his election to value domestic tranquility above searching for me. The discoveries fueled a determined anger, precise and channeled. Rising from the chair, I traversed the floorboards, internalizing the magnitude of their conduct. Karen's authoritarian control, Gregory's avoidance, Rebecca's opportunistic adjustment, Andrew's detached observation. Together they formed an intricate pattern of calculated forgetting. The bedroom's transformation stood as evidence of their commitment, eliminating my mark from the dwelling's very structure. A wave of resolve hardened within me. I would deconstruct this fabrication. However, spontaneous confrontation would sabotage everything. Effective strategy required patience. I would gather evidence systematically, guaranteeing the eventual confrontation possessed irrefutable power. When morning arrived, I made my way to the administrative center where county records were kept. Sunlight spilled across my floor as I threw on clothes, propelled forward by unwavering resolve. The journey felt automatic, my thoughts cycling through everything I'd discovered thus far. Finding myself at Portland's government complex wasn't something I'd planned upon waking, yet circumstances demanded it. A clerk position behind the service counter offered standard courtesy, inquiring about my requirements. "I need documentation of someone's passing," I stated, maintaining composure. Her expression shifted slightly. "A family member, actually myself," I clarified without emotion. She entered my information into their database without additional inquiry, fingers moving efficiently across the keyboard. Shortly after, her expression revealed bewilderment. "Based on what we have here, "You died in 2017 following a motor vehicle collision." The statement lingered in the space separating us. Ridiculous yet officially documented. She generated a printed copy and slid it toward me. The page felt substantial beneath my fingertips. Everything was there: my complete legal name, date of birth, falsified date of demise, bearing Karen Thompson's authorization. Listed reason: fatal automobile incident. The county's official emblem granted it legitimacy, a manufactured reality they'd constructed. Gripping that documentation, ice seemed to travel along my vertebrae. This transcended carelessness. Someone had intentionally fabricated this. I secured it within my collection of materials and exited the premises, Portland's midday activity dissolving into background noise around me. My subsequent destination was the legal practice overseeing my grandmother's financial legacy, somewhere I hadn't stepped foot since reaching 22 years of age. The establishment remained familiar: identical impersonal reception space, identical receptionist, wearing rehearsed pleasantness. I asked to speak with Mr. Mitchell, the attorney who'd administered the inheritance documentation previously. He appeared from his private quarters, straightening his neckwear, slowly registering who I was. Melissa Thompson, we believed. His sentence hung incomplete as he motioned me inward. Positioned opposite his workspace, I provided a condensed version of events. He accessed historical files through his terminal, forehead creasing with concern. "Your allocated amount was rerouted following submission of mortality verification," he explained. He produced printed documentation, demonstrating how the modest fund, $8,900 designated for my new beginning, had transferred to Rebecca's possession instead. The falsified death record accompanied it as justification, Karen's authorization clearly visible. "I questioned the circumstances even then," Mitchell confessed. However, the submitted materials appeared legitimate during processing. This validation intensified the controlled determination building inside me. They hadn't simply invented my demise, they'd extracted financial benefit from the deception. Departing the firm with duplicates secured, I paused at a neighborhood coffee establishment to examine everything comprehensively, combing through archived electronic correspondence on my mobile device. I recognized recurring themes I'd previously overlooked: credit applications rejected in 2022 and 2024, each referencing applicant mortality. One refusal statement specified in detail: institutional records confirm this person expired during 2017. I'd attributed those to administrative errors previously, too consumed with basic survival to pursue explanations. Now everything aligned, a deliberate sequence of interference. Returning to my temporary lodging, I arranged the materials across available surface area: the county-certified documentation, state verification records, financing rejections. I captured photographic evidence, compiled digital screenshots from social media content I'd preserved earlier. The accumulated proof constructed an incriminating narrative, their orchestrated plan exposed through official documentation. My cursor moved over the aviation booking application, searching available flights toward Portland. Reserving single-direction passage carried unintended symbolism, mirroring that train receipt from years earlier. The purchase confirmation arrived, cementing my intentions. I'd travel back fully prepared, equipped to dismantle their constructed fiction. As daylight diminished, I gathered minimal belongings, mentally organizing the upcoming confrontation. The elements connected too perfectly for random chance. They'd engineered this scheme to ensure my permanent erasure. With documentation safely stored, I permitted brief contemplation, the progression from family rejection to this fabricated mortality. It strengthened my determination. Shortly, I'd re-enter their environment, carrying undeniable truth they couldn't refute. 7 days afterward, the aircraft touched down in Portland. The recognizable urban profile emerged against distant mountains as I disembarked, rental vehicle access already arranged. Navigating through boulevards I'd formerly traveled routinely created unusual emotional distance. I decelerated approaching our previous residential area, stopping 3 blocks short of the actual address. From that vantage point, I observed the dwelling, seemingly frozen in its cultivated ordinariness. The flowering shrubs Karen maintained religiously each weekend displayed brilliant crimson blossoms along the boundary barrier, their vivid color contrasting sharply with pale, exterior walls. The hanging bench seat emitted faint rhythmic sounds as wind moved it, triggering memories of unhurried summer days spent reading beneath its shelter. These specific features awakened involuntary reminiscences. That covered entrance had served as my sanctuary during strained family meals, an escape route from disputes regarding curfew restrictions or academic performance. Presently, it remained standing as testimony to their revised existence, unmarked by my disappearance. I remained stationary, observing the replacement postal receptacle and recently applied finish on the entrance, indicators of upkeep concealing more profound divisions. The scene reinforced my purpose for being present, not seeking sentimental reconnection, but demanding accountability. A passing automobile startled me back to awareness. Premature discovery would jeopardize everything. My mobile device vibrated, interrupting the fixed observation. A communication from Tyler Bennett, my relative through extended family. Gathering scheduled tomorrow celebrating Rebecca's birth anniversary. Figured you'd want awareness, he'd written. Included was forwarded material, Rebecca's prepared remarks. I accessed the file, certain phrases immediately standing out. Being the singular daughter who maintained devotion to our principles, I embrace this heritage. The language framed her as exclusive recipient of their approval, completely eliminating my prior existence. Further into the document, we've survived hardships, yet our connection intensifies among those who've persisted. Tyler appended, Rita and myself believe this situation lacks integrity. We're available should you require assistance. The speech draft's presumption refined my objectives. Here was concrete evidence of their distorted perspective. This discovery accelerated my movements. I proceeded to a local accommodation facility, registering under alternative identification to prevent early recognition. After getting settled, I retrieved my previous mobile device from preserved belongings, the one I'd retained for emotional reasons, restoring its power. The charge indicator struggled to activate. Stored voice messages loaded gradually, artifacts from immediately following my exit. One originated from Gregory, recorded months subsequent. Melissa, should this reach you, circumstances escalated beyond intention. Another carried hesitation. Your mother maintains her position without remorse, though I experience regret. A third from Karen conveyed bluntness. Do not return attempting to create disruption. A fourth from Rebecca exuded satisfaction. Personal space belongs to me currently, preferable arrangement. These preserved communications unintentionally contributed additional dimensions to my collected evidence, documentation of their psychological state following my banishment. Audio recordings capturing both satisfaction and second thoughts. That same evening, I coordinated a confidential encounter with Rita Bennett, my maternal aunt. We arranged to meet at an inconspicuous cafe establishment positioned on the peripheral areas, distant from observant acquaintances. She appeared bundled in protective neckwear, her demeanor blending apprehension with determination. I've maintained silence excessively long, Rita declared, settling into the seating area. Our conversation remained deliberately subdued. She validated the family's fabricated account, explaining how they'd propagated the collision narrative during social functions. Tyler intercepted discussions regarding fund manipulation, she revealed quietly, elaborating on rumors surrounding the inheritance distribution. Rita and myself stand behind you completely, she promised, providing printed invitations to Rebecca's celebration. Her solidarity felt like essential reinforcement, strengthening my conviction through privileged information. Returning to the motel, I constructed my approach strategically. The celebration would occur at their residence, informal atmosphere with professional catering and festive arrangements, ideal conditions for unexpected arrival. I'd appear during peak attendance, documentation prepared, synchronizing my disclosure during the scheduled speeches. Standing before the bathroom mirror, I rehearsed measured presentation, visualizing their expressions transforming through shock. The voice recordings repeated through my consciousness, sharpening my execution. I reorganized the evidence once more, confirming every component aligned perfectly: certified mortality record, photographic documentation, estate transaction copies, rejection correspondence scans. Rest arrived sporadically, yet dawn brought mental precision. This wasn't reactive impulse. It represented methodical revelation with substantial consequences. By the following afternoon, I made my way to their house. Portland's familiar streets stretched before me, guiding me toward the address I'd memorized long ago. Vehicles crowded the sidewalk, colorful balloons fastened to the fence announcing festivities within. I found a spot away from the entrance, documents pressed against my side, and walked toward the doorway. Laughter and conversation echoed from inside, a veneer of happiness that churned my stomach. Smoke from the grill drifted from behind the house, mingling with children's squeals and rhythms from outdoor speakers. Pushing the entrance open, I entered the main room where chatter filled every corner. Faces pivoted gradually at first, then locked in stunned awareness. Rebecca occupied the center, pastry before her, mid-discussion with visitors about her latest vacation. Karen moved among guests carrying beverages, her expression dimming as she caught my gaze, the container wavering in her grip. Gregory remained near the glass, tumbler in hand, his shoulders tensing visibly. Andrew conversed with family members close by, his chuckle dying abruptly. Silence descended slowly, utensils ceasing their clatter, decorations swaying without sound. I broke the quiet, my voice controlled despite my racing pulse. "Remember me?" Sharp intakes of breath rippled through the assembly, like spreading water. A tumbler fell from someone's grasp, exploding against the floor with a piercing sound. Rebecca's complexion turned ashen, her jaw dropping, movements suspended midair. Karen placed the container down heavily, advancing with hostility. "Why have you appeared here? This gathering isn't for you." Murmurs circulated in subdued tones, expressions filled with astonishment, several reaching for devices subtly. I disregarded her, addressing the assembled group with deliberate composure. "They informed you I perished in an automobile accident, conducted memorial services at the community center, grieved openly with hymns and photographs, yet here I stand before you, breathing, undeniably alive." The murmuring grew louder, an elderly woman covering her lips in shock. I released the folder, arranging the death record on the central surface among appetizer dishes, signed by Karen, declaring vehicular fatality in 2017. Observers pressed closer, examining the official seal and authorization, hushed voices escalating. Following that, inheritance documentation emerged, displayed for inspection. My portion from grandmother, $8,900, transferred to Rebecca because records classified me as deceased. Attendees fidgeted awkwardly, glances bouncing between the evidence and my relatives. A family elder lifted one document, his forehead creasing. "These appear legitimate." Karen's response sliced through the commotion sharply. "This is ridiculous. You abandoned contact for years. We had no choice but to presume tragedy and safeguard what belonged to us." Rebecca agreed emphatically, her pitch rising. "We believed you'd vanished permanently. Documentation errors happen constantly. We bear no responsibility." Her fingers quivered subtly, exposing the performance as she sought the dessert for reassurance. Andrew advanced, his features showing inner turmoil, massaging his throat. He studied the papers, then faced Karen. "I witnessed you submitting that certificate at the administrative building. This wasn't mistaken. You orchestrated it to exclude her entirely." The space burst into whispers, a relative gasping distinctly. Karen's eyes flared with rage. "Keep silent, Andrew. You lack complete understanding." Yet he continued, his voice strengthening. "The attorney contacted me for timeline confirmation. I recognized the falsification but remained silent. Cowardly behavior I acknowledge presently." Stunned exclamations saturated the atmosphere, people trading incredulous expressions. Rita emerged from the edge, Tyler accompanying her. "We've witnessed sufficient deception through the years," Rita announced, her inflection steady and resolute. "Melissa lives, and this establishes fraud without question." Tyler affirmed, folding his arms. The remarks Rebecca drafted ignore her existence completely, asserting sole daughter position as though she never walked this earth. Allegiances fractured the gathering. Some acknowledged me, muttering concurrence like, "Finally, things make sense." Others gathered near Karen, countenances marked by uncertainty and protectiveness. One cousin whispered, "This seems impossible, fabricating someone's passing." Another, more audibly, "They falsified her demise for inheritance funds." Whispers transformed into disputes, voices colliding in bewilderment and indignation. "How could you inflict this upon your offspring?" Someone confronted Karen directly, gesturing toward the documentation. Sharp gasps punctuated the disorder as individuals scrutinized the papers more thoroughly, circulating them with unsteady hands. Karen lifted her palms frantically. Everyone settled down. This represents misinterpretation. Melissa distorts reality to manufacture conflict. But the harm proliferated rapidly, guests trading alarmed glances, some departing toward exits, devices activated to message others regarding the controversy. Rebecca's birthday confection remained ignored, candles liquefying unnoticed, frosting spreading across the dish as the atmosphere deteriorated. The celebration disintegrated into confusion, discussions fracturing into charges and justifications, relatives splitting sharply. Some approached me with inquiries like, "What truly transpired during those years?" Others maintained family allegiance with, "Additional context must exist." Let's consider their perspective. Karen's composure shattered completely, her directives disregarded amid the upheaval, complexion burning with exasperation. As final visitors departed, the main room cleared, leaving suffocating tension behind. The aftermath necessitated action. A family conference loomed unavoidably. The following morning, strain permeated Aunt Rita's cooking area. Morning light penetrated the window coverings, creating patterns on the timber surface where coffee containers rested ignored. Rita moved about with platters of bread and sliced fruit, but the space felt electrically charged. Relatives arrived individually with tense expressions and sparse acknowledgments. Tyler signaled me from the edge, his attendance a quiet foundation amid the discomfort. We assembled around the surface, furniture scraping against flooring as Karen assumed her position at the forefront, her bearing guarded. Gregory occupied the adjacent seat, appearing exhausted with shadowed regions beneath his vision. Rebecca hunched across, limbs folded defiantly, manipulating her cloth square. Andrew arrived finally, shutting the entrance gently but evading everyone's observation, settling into the available furniture. Karen initiated sharply, shattering the stillness. "This absurdity concludes immediately. Melissa, your performance yesterday shamed us entirely before everyone." I held her stare without wavering, my inflection balanced. "Shame? You fabricated my passing and appropriated what rightfully belonged to me. That constitutes the genuine problem here." The confrontation erupted instantly, voices stacking atop each other in quick progression. Rebecca leaned ahead combatively. "You deserted us initially, vanished without explanation. Why resurrect this now and destroy my celebration?"
Rita interrupted decisively.
"Because falsehoods like yours never remain concealed indefinitely, and Melissa merits explanations." Tyler contributed his perspective. "The proof we examined speaks independently. This transcends merely her account." Gregory massaged his skull, his movements uncertain, finally articulating with exhaled breath. "I possessed knowledge regarding the certificate from inception, observed Karen constructing it but maintained silence to preserve some appearance of harmony within the household. My actions were improper. I accept that responsibility fully presently." His confession suspended heavily, transforming the dynamic within the space like a turning point. Karen pivoted toward him with fury. "You what?" "This represents betrayal of the most profound nature." Gregory declined his head gradually. "No. The betrayal involved permitting our offspring to disappear, eliminated without resistance. I should have prevented it then." Andrew nodded deliberately, his expression displaying internal struggle. "I regret not challenging earlier, heard the speculation but dismissed them." The disputes intensified further, Accusations launched regarding intentions, concealments, and long-standing resentments. Rebecca defended intensely, her pitch climbing. We executed what necessity demanded for the family's benefit, maintained unity through difficult periods. I responded uniformly. Not when it necessitates perpetrating fraud and rewriting chronology to accommodate yourselves. The chamber divided further, Rita and Tyler supporting my assertions with affirmations and supplementary particulars, while Karen mobilized Gregory and Rebecca with directed stares, attempting to reclaim authority. As emotions crested and voices overlapped in passionate exchanges, I produced the legal documentation I'd assembled overnight. I've submitted a civil action, fraud, falsifying governmental records, misappropriation of inheritance. Gasps emerged from around the surface, but I proceeded without interruption. The tribunal will resolve it with all evidence presented. Karen's complexion blanched, her fingers gripping the surface boundary. You'll demolish everything we've constructed. Consider the ramifications. The conference dissolved into quietness following that. No settlements achieved, merely fractured partnerships and unresolved hostile expressions suspended in the atmosphere. Days afterward, the ramifications manifested rapidly following the submission. Karen confronted a penalty of $4,500 from the magistrate during proceedings, plus 110 hours of community obligation at a neighborhood refuge in Portland. Her modest enterprise suffered immediately. Clients terminated agreements after information circulated through community networks and digital platforms. Rumors of the controversy corroding her standing and producing vacant scheduling books. Rebecca endured worse circumstances. Her position at the organization terminated suddenly when the narrative reached coworkers via social channels, management referencing integrity considerations amid public repercussions and internal examinations. Gregory relocated quietly several days following, selecting a separate residence downtown, their marriage strained past restoration by the disclosures and perpetual conflicts that ensued.
No dramatic reconciliations materialized.
Communications remained unanswered, contact attempts encountered barriers, entrances stayed sealed permanently. I gathered my possessions that week, abandoning Portland conclusively without backward glances. Returning to my own municipality, I re-established connections with longtime companions who'd become my genuine foundation across the years. Evenings occupied with communal dining, candid conversations, and aspirations for tomorrow that reconstructed what family authentically signified on my conditions. Contemplating everything from separation, I understood biological connections don't establish value or acceptance. Authentic family surfaces from those selecting loyalty throughout tempests, not duty. Ascending from erasure instructed me to construct my chronicle autonomously, unencumbered by historical restrictions or anticipations. Power resides in advancing deliberately, claiming territory where none existed, and establishing achievement beyond inherited trauma.